Alright, we are back working on this project. I know we kind of took a little break from this thing. We had to work on a bunch of other projects, but now we're finally done with that. So we are continuing with this. Now, something I do want to say is I need to stop calling this thing a rock bouncer because let's be honest, this thing is not a rock bouncer. The reason I've been calling it a rock bouncer is because that was the original plan of what I wanted to build, and then I slowly built this, and then I'm realizing that this thing is not really a rock bouncer. It's a rock crawler. It's got too much travel for a rock bouncer. The tires aren't that big. It doesn't really have that much power, and it's going to be going more on the slower side. So this thing is not really a rock bouncer, and we need to stop calling. I need to stop calling it a rock bouncer. So I'm actually going to go back to all the videos that I've filmed with this project and change the title of the videos and change it from rock bouncer to rock crawler. So therefore, I don't confuse it, and because honestly, I don't want to be building something and calling it a rock bouncer, and then when it's done, you guys are going to expect me to go rock bounce this thing, and it's not going to do well with that. It's going to, be a rock crawler. I know you guys are saying these tires are too small for actual rock crawling, but this is, let's say it again, is a mini rock crawler. This is for mini rocks, small rocks. It's not, I don't expect this vehicle to be able to do what a normal sized rock crawler can do. This is a mini rock crawler. So we're going to be going over mini rocks and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, now we finally put the radiator installed that I bought for this thing months ago. The reason this is such a big radiator is because this vehicle is obviously not going to be going that fast. It's not going to be getting that much airflow, and I don't want to have overheating issues with this engine. And I want to make sure that we can, be going very slow, even with the engine revving pretty high, and not have overheating issues. So therefore, I wanted to make sure it has a big enough radiator, something that has a giant fan on the back of here. And I wanted to put it in the front, so therefore it does get maximum amount of airflow if we are going fast. I was kind of considering putting it in the back, but there's really not that much, there's no room in the back, and I don't want to have radiator hose, going all over this place, so it's, the best place is in the front. So, now, I think the next thing we should work on is, let's start working on building a gas tank for this vehicle. Now pretty much the only place for a gas tank on this vehicle is right here, right behind where I'm sitting. It's not really the most ideal location, but it is pretty much the only place I have room for a gas tank on this thing. Now, before we do that, before we build the gas tank, we do need to add a bit more tubing to the back of here. We need to add some cross bracing in between here and here and here and here to strengthen the frame up this way. So therefore, worst case scenario, if this thing does roll over, this doesn't fold like a burrito in this direction or in this direction. So, but it's going to be a little tricky because I'm sitting right here. My head goes right here. So we can't simply just go from here to here because that's going to be in the way, and it's it's not going to work. So either I'm going to have to go bend it out and then back, or just go from here to here maybe, and then I don't know. I need to build it, and I need to make sure it's strong enough, as well as I need to make sure it's out of the way, so therefore I'm not bashing the back of my head on it. Then once we do that, then we can build the gas tank for this thing. Alright, we got the beginnings of the gas tank kind of tacked together. Now, I kind of made this thing a little too big at first, because we have to mount this thing a little bit high, just like that, and it's hitting the seat. So I had to cut off a little portion and weld it a little bit angled, just like that. So, now the next thing we should do, before we tack together the top plate or anything, we need to machine an aluminum disc that we can weld onto the gas tank, so therefore we can bolt the fuel pump onto here. Now this is the fuel pump for this engine, and like with most fuel pumps on motorcycle engines, they mount from the bottom. So it shouldn't be too hard to machine a little disc, so therefore we can mount this onto here. Crap. Dang it. Let's do this on my other lathe, my homemade lathe. Alright, so this lathe is a lot better at interrupted cuts like this. So let's just get this thing round on this lathe, and then we'll put it back on the big one. So last night, finished welding the gas tank together. I swear I'm getting a little bit better with aluminum welding. These welds definitely don't look completely terrible. Now, the next thing we need to do is pressure test this. As with every gas tank that I make from scratch, I pressure test it to like 15 psi and spray soapy water everywhere and just make sure there's no welds leaking. And most of the time there's like 1 or 2 leaks, and then you just got to go over it again and fix the leak. So now we need to pressure test this, and I don't want to try to pump 15 psi of air through the outlet of the fuel pump because I'm not really sure. First of all, I'm not even sure that would work, and I don't want to break this fuel pump. This thing was a couple $100. So I quickly made this little thing. This is basically just a piece of plate with this welded onto it that's drilled all the way through. Basically just bolt that onto here and pressurize it through there. Alright, so there was 2 little pinholes. One right here, and then the other one was right here. They were like tiny, tiny little pinholes where air was slowly leaking out. So I went over them with the torch and covered them up and then repressurized it and checked again just to make sure I covered them up, and they're now fine. So now, let's figure out a way how to mount this thing onto the frame. Alright, so we're able to install the radiator as well as build a custom gas tank and get it mostly installed in the frame. Now, how I kind of installed it on here is I'm using 2 pieces of angle iron with rubber in between it, so it's not metal on metal, and then I'm going to be running 2 straps over it to kind of hold it in place. I think that's going to be a little bit better than the other way that I do it, where I just weld tabs onto the gas tank, the weld tabs onto the frame, and bolt it on here. We'll see how well this works, see if this is a little bit better. So now, as with every video, I always try to get as much done as possible in each video, and unfortunately, due to it being the holidays, I wasn't able to get as much done in this video as I wanted to, and I'm sure you guys understand. It's holidays, I've been spending a bunch of time with my family. I'm sure you guys understand that. So, the next couple videos of this project, we gotta finish a bunch of stuff. We gotta finish the engine mounts, we gotta finish the mounts for the gearbox, for the transfer case, the jack shaft. We gotta finish a bunch of stuff on the frame. We also have to start working on lengthening all of these CV axles. We have to lengthen them like 6 or 7 or 8 inches just to meet the transfer cases in the rear as well as in the front. Then we gotta start working on lengthening the drive shafts for the rear and the front. That's gonna take a little while. And then once we do all that, then we can start working on controls. Brakes, the throttle, the clutch, gear shifter, the gear shifter for the secondary transmission. Then once we do all that, then we can start working on disassembling this entire frame, weld it all together, reassemble it. Then we can start working on trying to get this engine running and testing all the drive components. Now, that's going to be the next couple of videos of this project. I'm not really sure how long it's going to take to do all this kind of stuff, because I definitely like to bounce back and forth between projects. Right now, I'm going to put this thing to the side and start working on part 4 of the mini crotch rocket build, just so I can continue with that project. So yeah, this thing's starting to come together. I think this is going to be the ride height of this vehicle. It's like almost a little halfway. It's a little bit less than halfway of full extension, and we definitely need to take out some of the oil in these shocks, because right now it has a little bit too much dampening. If you move it down, it just kind of stays there, and you got to pick it back up a little bit. So we have to, play around with the shocks, get it to where they still have dampening, but it actually compresses and then goes back to its original stance. So we definitely have to play around with these shocks and try to get them to work a little bit better. So we still have a ton of work we got to do to this vehicle before we can start working on trying to get this thing running. But for now, I got to end this video here. Thank y'all for watching. I'll see ya in the next video.
Yeah. Holy crap. Uh-oh. Let's try this again.